right? This is not the type of economic weakness that any of the people who are trading today or who are programming algorithms to trade have experienced. You have to go back to the 1970s to see economic conditions that are comparable, although they're worse now because the financial position of the United States has deteriorated dramatically since that decade. But you have to go back then, and recession doesn't guarantee lower yields. In fact, I think it assures higher yields, and that's why I'm confident that the rally in bonds is going to reverse, and that's going to be even more problematic for the stock market. But the stock market is already having a problem with this dynamic because the air is coming out of the bubble of a lot of the momentum names, right? These speculative stocks that have been bid way up based on the cheap money bubble and the good times rolling. A lot of these stocks are getting hit. But the risk asset that got hit the hardest today, and the one I want to start the podcast really talking about, is Bitcoin. And not just Bitcoin, it's the entire crypto ecosystem, industry, whatever you want to call it. And I talked about this, in the euphoria of the Trump victory, as Bitcoin surged to 109,000 and all things crypto went up. I was saying at the time that maybe this is the euphoric top, that everybody is so optimistic. There's absolutely no reason for Bitcoin to go down. We've got a crypto president. We got a crypto cabinet. We're going to have a strategic reserve. Everybody was bullish. Nobody wanted to sell. And I said, that's the exact environment where you probably should sell. If you can't think of a reason to sell, you probably should, because everybody else was buying and we had a blow off top. Bitcoin today officially entered what Wall Street would call a bear market. Earlier today, Bitcoin traded below 86,000. That was a 21% decline from the 109,000 peak from November. So that meets the definition of a bear market. But Bitcoin is actually doing the best. Look at Ethereum. The Ether's down 40% since December. That's doing worse. Now, one of the reasons that it was running into some problems was competition from Solana. Well, Solana is down 55% from its peak last month. And what really drove Solana up was all the mania about meme coins when people bought Trump coin and Melania coin. By the way, Trump coin is down 80% already. Of course, it's going to go down 100%. I mean, all this crap is worthless, but it is falling apart. But it's not just the tokens. Look at the individual crypto stocks. I mean, talk about bear markets. The mining companies are just getting killed. I mean, you could pretty much pick any one of these miners. They're at 52-week lows or multi-year lows, or they're at the lowest they've ever been, like in their history of being a public company. I mean, if this is the age of crypto and we have a crypto president and everything's going to be great for crypto, why are these miners getting completely destroyed, right? I mean, look at like Hive blockchain or digital technologies. That closed at $2.18. That's a multi-year low. The 52-week high was almost $6 on that stock. This other one here, I just had a few of them. Oh, Mara Holdings, they recently started a Bitcoin strategic reserve, which is way underwater now. Or they were down at 8% today, but they're at $12.40, down from $34 was the 52-week high. Some of these stocks I haven't heard of. Cleans Park, it's a miner. It closed down like 8.5%, $8.15. The 52-week high was $24.72. Here, Argo blockchain. This thing is down at 44 cents. The 52-week high was $2.78. I mean, there's a whole bunch of these stocks. You can just look them up and see how much they've just crashed. But of course, the poster boy for the Bitcoin space is MicroStrategy, although it's not micro anymore, although it's going to be micro pretty soon as far as its stock price. But It's now just called strategy. But the real strategy is how to bankrupt your company, because that's the strategy that Michael Saylor is pursuing. So strategy was down 10% about on the day, although at the lows it was down closer to 13%, but there was a little bit of a rally. But strategy closed 54% below its November high. 54%. This is a brutal bear market. But even worse, because of all the massive dilution, because of all the stock they've issued since then to buy Bitcoin, the premium has collapsed. At one point, at its peak, a MicroStrategy was almost triple the value of its Bitcoin. I mean, maybe 270% premium. But for most of its, history, it was at like a double. Like you were paying twice as much to buy MicroStrategy as the value of their Bitcoin. Now, the value of the underlying business, whatever software company is buried beneath this, pile of losses, who cares? No one even cares that they're a soft. They ought to spin the software business off. But it was all trading off of Bitcoin. It was like a closed-end Bitcoin fund that it was trading for double the NAV. Well, now the premium is already down to about 18%. That's it. So it's like a 93% decline in premium. In fact, to add insult to injury, yesterday, Michael Saylor announced on X that they had just bought, MicroStrategy had just spent another $2 billion buying more Bitcoin, right? They borrowed the money. They spent $2 billion on Bitcoin. They didn't buy $2 billion worth of Bitcoin because it's not worth anything, but they blew $2 billion. Their average price on the ones they just bought was $97,500. As I'm recording this podcast now, it's barely $88,000. So they're already down like 10% on the buy that they just announced yesterday. Now, the average price of the Bitcoin that they bought is now $66,357. I mean, their average price and the market price are converging pretty quickly. And because we know he's going to keep on buying, at some point, his average price is going to be above the market price, and he's going to be at a loss. But, you got to think about this. Where would Bitcoin be today had Michael Saylor not just bought another $2 billion worth of it? I mean, he is the biggest buyer. I mean, they've now spent $33 billion buying Bitcoin, most of it in the last